5th birthday today, and photographs have been released to mark the occasion. They were taken by her mother, the Duchess of Cambridge, when Charlotte was helping to deliver food to pensioners near the royal estate at Sandringham. Part of the delivery included fresh pasta, apparently made by the family the day before. Now, the UK has been in lockdown, as we will be very much aware, for very nearly 6 weeks, and there is still no clear date of when those restrictions will start to ease. It is going to be some time. People largely adhering to the rules, but will that continue if the lockdown lasts much longer? Well, Ivo Vlaev is Professor of Behavioural Science at the University of Warwick and joins me now. Good morning to you. Look, I mean, what's your assessment of how we've behaved so far and how long we can keep that up?
Well, on the whole, people do stick and will stick to obeying the lockdown restrictions, it seems. And with a few exceptions here and there, the population is obeying the rules. And the more they stick to the new way of life, the more likely they are to develop new habits and routines. So it takes about 2 months on average to develop a habit, the research shows. So we are almost there. It may be actually hard for some people, some folk, to get out of the lockdown after they develop the new way of life.
So what are we to make then of all the? There's been a lot of pressure on the government to have to be very public about the strategy of getting out of lockdown. From a behavioural science perspective, is that helpful to people as they cope with this, or is it slightly problematic in when you can see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, they should be using more behavioral science, which can be used to improve communications and policies and help people adhere to the government advice. So the COVID-19 pandemic is a new situation. There are no ready-made communication strategies proven to change behavior. But as the pandemic progresses, we are learning what works, what doesn't, and what is counterproductive. The pandemic has not fundamentally changed how people think and behave. So the government can apply what works in other situations, and there are a few do's and don'ts that the government should follow in this respect, which I'm happy to share. But the most important thing is to motivate and enable people. Think about, as a government or organization, what information people need, how to motivate them, and how to ensure they can make the change. So, for example, don't give vague advice. To enable, don't give vague advice and suggestions, shopping only for essentials, for example. What are essentials? You have to be precise. Give precise advice, what behavioral change is needed, present examples of what following the advice and not following advice looks like, tell people what support is available to help them adhere, help households to plan how to commit to social distancing and isolation while still accessing income, food, social networks, and exercise. Circumstances will evolve, so households and individuals should be encouraged to plan regularly ahead. So this enablement to motivate, we need to stress how desired behaviors, such as social isolation, protect the most vulnerable, including those we love, present powerful images and the actual voices of those we need to protect, loved ones, the vulnerable, the NHS, which you've seen in the media recently. I think the strategy changed quite dramatically. And don't show that people are doing undesirable things. There was a lot of stuff yesterday about fly tipping. This reinforces the wrong norm and motivates malicious behavior. So instead, we need to emphasize what people are doing well. Use inspiring examples such as NHS volunteers to stress how different ethnic and socioeconomic groups are helping each other. So motivation is crucial. And we need to also communicate how our sense of self is rooted in membership of families and neighborhoods and communities and nation. Protect each other. It's very motivating.
But Ivo, forgive me for interrupting, but on that sense, we've performed, I mean, you could say the government to an extent, but the country as a whole has performed very well, hasn't it, in terms of general positive outlook, in that sense of community, which was improved, I think, just about everywhere in the UK. I mean, that does seem to be pushing forward those positive messages.
Indeed. But of course, we have to continue doing so, especially when you're unlocking the lockdown, because there is a sense that people might be willing to go back to their normal ways of living, and that's not likely to be the rule. The guidebook is changing as we speak, and so we definitely need to adapt and apply more of these insights to actually motivate people. And there might be some risk sometimes that governments want to use authoritarian approach. Messages based solely on coercion and authority may achieve dramatic changes in the short term, but they might be hard to sustain in the long term. So it's better to reward and incentivize and enable people rather than to use coercion. So we have to be really conscious of these risks here when we're going ahead in the next stage.
Okay. Look, we're going to have to leave it there, but it is fascinating to talk to you, Professor. Thank you very much indeed. And that message stays pretty clear, doesn't it? Need to stick to the lockdown rules, stay positive, try and keep a smile on your face while you do it. I know it's very, very difficult for some people, and if you're living in a flat in a small town or in a city, it's very difficult. Stick with it. It's for everybody's benefit. Is the weather going to cheer us up today, though? Is it something nice to look out on when we have our daily exercise? Kirsty, what's in store for us?